Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this video and channel. My name is Coach Mark. I'm hoping this will be one of the most important chess videos you have ever clicked on in your entire life. Yes, sir. Today is the day, guys. Thank you so much for being patient with me. That is awesome. And the wait is over for both of us, really. And I'm so incredibly excited to share with you an inspirational idea that started well over a year ago and now has finally come to fruition after 6 grueling months of trial and error, tons of testing, learning from mistakes, and good old fashioned hard work. I'm pleased to announce that I have created, designed, and built for you guys a revolutionary chess app that the chess world has never seen before. And trust me, I've looked. For many of you guys, it's going to drastically change the way you look at chess, how you think about positions, and what to look for in your own games. And there's no more being a spectator and sitting back and watching YouTube clips. You'll now have an interactive tool in your hands that you can have fun with, that you can train on, that will exponentially speed up your learning curve for many of the ideas and concepts we've been talking about on this channel for quite a while. All right, no more fluff, guys. Here we go. So here is my presentation and demonstration of the new chess app. I'm calling it Real Tactics In-Game Trainer. I hope you enjoy.
And here we go.
Okay.
You serious? Nope.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your new chess domain. Okay, real quick. So why did I design the welcome screen like this? 2 reasons. One, I just think it looks pretty freaking cool. But more importantly, I wanted it to be symbolic. I think many times as chess players, we feel alone in our efforts to improve. And that's because, well, we are for the most part. But every player at some point will hit that wall, try to climb that mountain, get stuck on a plateau, and feel like they just can't break through. Here we have an enormous, intimidating tidal wave coming at us. And the waves are holding us back, preventing us from breaking through and reaching our potential. We're stuck on the shore, and we just can't see the whole chessboard under this vast amount of water to truly explore the wide ocean, the imagination, and never-ending possibilities of this beautiful game called chess. So my hope is that this app will help you break free of the chains and unlock that next level or series of levels to reach your goals. So let's enter. So we click on enter on the welcome page, and that sends us to the home or login page here. Again, the name of the app is Real Tactics In-Game Trainer. First-time users will come over here to create an account in this bubble on the right. You will select a username of your choice. I do need your email in case you forget your password. You click over here and enter your email. It will automatically send you a password reset link. You will then choose a password. You will confirm it. Press create account. It will say up here registration successful in green. You'll turn right around here on the left. You'll enter your username again and your password. We have these funny little monkey eye things here in case you don't want anybody to see your password. I strongly recommend that you guys check this remember me box. That way when you open up the app and click enter on the welcome page, you will bypass this screen. And that will take us to our training modules page. Yes, sir, guys, this is the heart and soul of the app. Everything revolves around this central page. And as you can see, I have built not 1, not 2, but 7 different training modules. And it's quite funny because the original idea was only for this one tactics recognition module using the 6 conditions we always talk about on this channel. And one idea led to another, and here we are 6 months later with 7 of these guys. Okay, guys, I want to stop for just a moment before I take you through each of these 7 different training modules and answer this burning question I'm sure many of you guys have, which is, you say chess app, but what are you actually running it on? And the good news is it's compatible with all devices, all companies, all brands. We don't discriminate around these parts. So when I'm showing you the videos off of my Windows PC desktop, but an iMac desktop, Windows laptop, MacBook, iPhone, Android, Samsung, Google Pixel, is compatible with everything. Now, my family uses Apple for cell phones and tablets. So I'm showing you here, this is my Apple iPad. This is a Windows laptop that is compatible with. And of course, the cell phones, I have an iPhone 16 Pro Max. So obviously the more modern phones with the bigger screens, but it's also compatible. I worked really hard to make sure it's compatible with the old cell phones, these tiny little things. This is like a iPhone generation -2 made during the time of the Romans. But yeah, it's going to be compatible with everything. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I actually show you guys how to access it. But just wanted you guys to know. All right, back to the training modules. All right, back to our main training modules page. It's all about this guy right here, the tactics recognition module. That is the whole point of this software program. Everything in this app points to and is designed to help you get better at this one module. The identifying checks over here in the top left, the coordinated squares, bottom left, and the unprotected pieces here in the panel number 3. Those are 3 of our 6 tactics recognition conditions we always talk about on the channel. And notice down here at the bottom right, I have this coming soon block, which will probably be the restricted pieces module at some point. This Genius training module, I had a lot of fun with this one. You can think of this as like your brilliancies. So I'm choosing to call it Genius training or your Genius moves. So it will teach you and help you to think aggressively. If attacking is a weakness for you and you're a passive player, the position generator simply gives you infinite number of random positions to allow you to work on anything that you want. And the memorizing squares module up here in the top right is just a fun drill to help you with learning the coordinates on the chessboard. Okay, so notice that I built different difficulty levels into our 5 core training modules. So when you select a certain difficulty, say you select medium, then the app will randomly select puzzles from the medium batch in the database. So there's never a certain order. So it's not like you're going to start with puzzle number 1, then puzzle number 2, etc. You will also have the option to choose random. So on each position, you will not know the difficulty until the ends. That makes it harder, more challenging. You may also select customize if you only want certain difficulties. So if you click customize, say that ain't nobody got time for the easy ones. Say you only want the medium and the hard puzzles. You can click start and it will only feed you those puzzles. And okay, so let's start with an easy tactics recognition puzzle since this is the most important module. So we'll press easy. All right, so here is the main layout of our tactics training module. Now, before I explain how this works, we all have to agree on this one point. For years and years, people swear up and down by puzzles. You know, do puzzles, do puzzles, do puzzles. It's the best way to learn, the best way to train. And to some extent, they're right. I'm a huge advocate of doing puzzles. I suggest that to my students and clients. But the problem is that's only half of the equation. That's only 50% of the story. And it's not enough. It's not enough to just know how to solve puzzles. The other half of the battle is you have to know when to look for the opportunities, right? Because here's my take. I mean, when you're presented with a puzzle, whether it's Chess or chess.com or any plethora of apps out there, when you're presented with a puzzle, you know there's a tactic on that move, right? And so they're not as hard because it's like I could sit here for 2 minutes, 10 minutes, or an hour until I find this tactical move. But if you're playing a real game, nobody comes around and taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, by the way, treat this like a chess.com puzzle. That's why I emphasize it so much on the channel, these 6 tactics recognition conditions, that when any of these 6 are met, that triggers that alarm in your head. And you guys that know, been following the channel, I have that tactics recognition buzzers like bam, bam, bam. Alarm should go off in your head to say, hey, now's an opportunity to look for tactics. A tactic may or may not be there, but at least that lets me know when to look. Because I've run into lots and lots of players and students and clients that they have a 2100 level puzzle rating, but their playing rating is only 1,000. They can solve them, but they don't know when to look. They don't find them during the game. So that's what this app is going to do. It's going to cut through all that and help you learn to know when to look. Okay. So the way this works, and this is what sets my app apart from everybody else. On a puzzle, you know the tactics on that move. All right. With this training app, you're never going to know where the tactic is. Let me repeat that. You're never going to know where the tactic is. This training module is, I'm going to make it real simple. It's broken down into 2 parts. You got phase 1 and phase 2. So for you visual learners, I have over here in the bottom right-hand corner, just kind of a little procedure how this works. Part 1 or phase 1 is simply answering the question, yes or no. Is there a tactic or does the tactical sequence start on this move? Okay. So you'll notice here in the layout that we have these 3 buttons: yes, no, and give up. Okay. So in phase 1, you're not making any manual moves. You are not moving a piece on the chessboard. You're just answering the question, do we have a tactic on this move? Okay. So here's where we're going to use our 6 tactics recognition conditions over here on the left side here. I've got them written out. And if you're not familiar with these, I put out a 2-part mini series where I teach all 6 of these conditions. I will drop a link to that video in the description of this video if you want to check it out. I'm not going to go into a great detail on this because I'm just here to kind of present the app. But just know that everything is based off of these different conditions. Okay. So you're just pressing yes or no. Okay. Once you get to the tactic, it might be after move 1, it might be after move 5. Once you get to the tactic, you say, okay, now the tactical sequence starts. Then you will press yes, the tactic is on that move. And I want to be very clear on something. It's the start of the tactical sequence. It's not necessarily the tactic itself. So if the tactic is you're forking your opponent's queen and rook, well, maybe you make a forcing move. Say you capture their rook, a forcing move, and then you fork their queen and rook. Just like normal puzzles operate, just know that it's the start of the tactical sequence. Okay. So let's take a look at this position here and just see how this works. So the computer just played this move. And by the way, you guys are able to highlight squares and draw arrows. I have different modifiers. So on the desktop or laptop, you can press and hold the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can make, if I hold down the 2 button, I get different color arrows. So that's pretty cool. I got lots and lots of bells and whistles. You can highlight squares, that kind of thing. All right, let's press the clear button. And so we got to look at this position and say, do we have a tactic in this spot? Well, we can see here that the bishop on b6 is an unprotected piece. We'll get to that. We see here that this pawn on b7 is an unprotected piece. This pawn is a 1 versus 1. Again, we'll get to that. But I don't see a tactic here right off the bat. Okay. So again, I'm going to say this very important. You guys understand this. If you're the kind of person that when you're doing puzzles, you spend 5 seconds on it, you're like, I don't know, I give up, and you press hint or you just get the answer, whatever, that's going to hinder your development big time. So this training module by nature is going to be a little bit harder than puzzles because you never know when the tactic is going to be there. So you really have to buckle down and think on every single move. And that's why I'm calling this real tactics in-game trainer, because this is true in-game simulation. So I've got, again, for you visual learners, I've got this box down at the very bottom. I'm showing here an example. Like we've got puzzle number 1 over here. Okay, we got the start of the game, and what I'm showing is the start of the puzzle in this app. But the start of the tactical sequence may not be until here. And maybe the start of the puzzle, maybe you have to answer the question yes or no twice. Maybe it takes you 2 moves until you get to the start of this tactical sequence. And then you're going to finish up the puzzle with 3 more manual moves afterwards. And we reach the end of the puzzle. But maybe on one of the harder puzzles, extreme, if the difficulty increases, I might make you wait 6 moves until you get to the start of the tactical sequence. So you might actually answer the question yes, no. You might press no 5 or 6 times. It might be the first move of the puzzle. It might be move number 3 or move number 9. You're never going to know. Okay. So I'm going to make this real simple in this box. Phase 1, you're just answering yes or no. Okay. So in this position, no, I don't see a tactic. So I'm going to press no. Now, everybody starts off with 1,000 points. If you're above 1,000, you're in the green. If you drop down, you're in the red. Okay. We're going to press no. Okay. So it says correct. We got 10 points. I'll explain how the point system works later. But I have gamified this so we can, kind of have some games and some friendly competitions. I have a global leaderboard that you can be a part of. So that's pretty cool. All right. So the computer made this move. So once you answer the question yes or no, the computer will make an automatic move for you and then an automatic move for the computer. And now we're right back. We're still in phase 1. Yes or no, is there a tactic here? I'll let you guys pause the video if you'd like. Okay, no, we don't see a tactic here. We can take this pawn, right? We have 2 rooks on the g6 pawn, so we can take that. But that's not a tactic. That's just winning a pawn. So no, we don't have a tactic here. I'll press no. Okay, we get 10 more points. Okay, bishop moves to c7. Okay, now do we have a tactic? Okay, yes, we do. Here's where I would hit my tactics recognition buzzer. This is condition number one, location of pieces. When two or more pieces are lined up on the same straight line, that should be an alarm in your head to trigger. There might be an opportunity for a tactic here. And of course, we can see, I'm going to put this here in green. We can see that the king and the bishop are on the same straight line. We have an opportunity for a tactic. So I'm going to press yes. Okay, notice that I received more points for being correct. And then now, after we answer yes or no at the start of the tactical sequence, now we enter puzzle mode. Now we're in a regular puzzle mode where we're going to make manual moves. Okay, so the move here is, of course, rook to g7, and we skewer the king and the bishop. And now we're going to continue again, make a manual move. We take the bishop, and that's the end of the line. Okay, so here's what's cool about this app, guys. Here's what I'm so excited about. Every other, chess.com or whatever, other puzzle apps, you finish the puzzle and that's it. The learning's over and you go on to the next puzzle. I have worked very, very hard here to let you guys learn from your mistakes. If you get the puzzle wrong, what's going to happen here is once you reach this end of the line, it's going to go over here and it's going to highlight the conditions that you used during the puzzle. I have this 5-line summary over here. It will tell you how many total points that you won. If you never make a mistake, you're going to get a perfect bonus. That does depend on the difficulty. So the harder the difficulty, the more points you get for a perfect bonus. And if you solve the puzzle without any mistakes in a certain amount of time, then you'll also get a time bonus. I didn't get it here because I'm sitting here talking and explaining. It will tell you the time it took, and it will tell you if you made any mistakes. Another cool feature about this is I'm going to show you guys who the players were involved in the game. So now, the inspiration of this idea came a year ago. I actually started keeping track of my own tactics and my own brilliancies. So this is actually from one of my own games, and I'm not going to have a ton of my own games, but I did have to start somewhere. I know you guys don't want to see a bunch of games from me, but I've got games from Bobby Fischer, Gary Kasparov, you name it. William Steinitz, Paul Morphy, Tao, Hikaru, Magnus Carlsen, of course. I've got Gotham chess games in here. I love Levy. So this is really cool. I will show you the game, the year it was played, and the two players involved. And of course, we have the mode here. We're on the easy mode. So this is another thing that's really crucial. You can either press the back button to go back and review, or you can just press this reset button. If I press reset, it will take us all the way back to the beginning of the puzzle. We can use the arrow forward button to walk through the puzzle. And then I work really hard to put out, if there are any comments. I don't know if I have any comments in this one, but I've worked really hard to put comments in here that kind of tells you why we're making the moves that we're making. I'm not just kind of flying off the wall here. I've actually really studied these positions. I have, if you're wondering where these positions come from, I have researched a lot of different public databases, and these are real games. There's not just make-believe positions that I have found through a lot of extensive research. And then I'll draw arrows here in the review showing, okay, we're attacking the bishop. They move here. Then here I've got a comment, right? So it says white has a check and is coordinated on G7. So this is another really cool feature of the app. This is where the learning is going to take place. So please don't do the module and just go to the next puzzle. Go back, especially if you get them wrong. Go back and look through and see how we use each of these tactical recognition conditions to figure out what's a good move here. So in this particular case, on this move, we actually have 4 of the 6 conditions that are met. First of all, the green arrow shows that the king and the bishop are lined up on the same straight line. Okay, so that's tactics recognition condition number 1, location of pieces. The bishop is unprotected. That's a 0 versus 0. If you have no idea what that means, we'll get to that. We have coordination on the G7 square because we have 2 or more pieces that are attacking the same square. And then, of course, condition number 3 is checks. We do have a check on the G7 square. So 4 of the 6 conditions are met. So that's, when that happens, it's like, bah, bah, bah. Let's look for a tactic. It doesn't mean there's one there, but there's a potential for it, right? So I say while black's king is lined up on the same straight line as the bishop, which is unprotected, it's 0 versus 0. Okay, so this is what I'm really excited about that I'm hoping that the people will really use and take advantage of to to improve their game. We got the timer down here, and of course, you can see your score increasing up there. Okay, so also down at the bottom, it will tell you whose turn it is to play. Is it white to play? Is it black to play? You can flip the board, all that kind of stuff. You can clear or whatever. Okay, so let's take a look at one more example. Bet you guys didn't see that one coming. I cannot wait to show you all the different features and bells and whistles that I put into this thing. So many customizable options and things you have control over. You will not find another app out there, gaming app, chess or not, that gives you as much control over the user interface. So can't wait to show you guys that. You can change backgrounds and colors and all kinds of stuff. Okay, so in this position here, before we take a look at this position, I want to talk about this the procedure down here at the bottom right one more time. I said there's phase one and phase two, yes or no, and then the manual phase. But really, you can break those two phases down into sub phases. So really, we have four. We have a phase 1A and B, and a phase 2A and B. Phase 1A is answering yes or no leading up to the start of the tactical sequence. So you're just going to be sitting there pressing no, no, there's no tactic, no tactic, 1, 2, 5, however many times. And then phase 1B is when you do reach the tactic, right? You got to answer yes or no on that move. And so you'll gain and lose more points at that spot because that's what this whole app is about. Can you recognize when there is a tactic on that move? Phase 2A is making the first correct manual move. Maybe you do correctly analyze and see there is a tactic there, but you see the wrong tactic or you play the wrong first correct move. So again, you'll get or lose more points on phase 2A. And then phase 2B is just making all the continue follow-up moves until you reach the end of the line. Okay, so the computer just played this move, took a piece here on B3. So I'll let you guys pause the video, and when you have access to this, you won't have to pause the video anymore. And that's another thing that about this app is, sometimes there's so many good YouTube streamers out there, and I watch them too. But you might have to sit there and watch a 20-minute YouTube video of some game between Gary Towle and Bobby Carlson, right? So you'll sit there and watch 20 minutes of a game just to get to that spot where the YouTube streamer will say, pause the video, can you find the move? And I do that. I do the same thing. But this app's going to cut through all that. No ads, no sponsors, no waiting 20 minutes. I'm going to take you right to the icing on the cake, and I'm going to cut out that sweet spot around that game-changing move, around that tactical sequence, and just show you the good parts. Okay, so do we have a tactic here or not? Okay, no, we don't. Or do we? Let me show you what happens when you incorrectly say there's no tactic here. I'm going to press no. You guys recognize that sound? Yes, sir. That is my tactics recognition buzzer. So you guys are going to have the chance to choose sound effects. And this is, you'll have access. You can choose the buzzer that I use all the time. I've had people tell me, they start watching the videos on the channel. I was like, man, when I'm playing a game, I'm hearing that tactics buzzer in my head. I'm like, that is so freaking awesome. So you're going to lose some points. So I'll talk about the points later on in the video, but you're going to lose 50 points across the board if you incorrectly say, no, there's no tactic when there is one there. Again, that's the whole point of this whole app in this training module. So now when you're wrong, we now immediately enter phase 2, and now we're in manual mode. So it says the tactic puzzle sequence starts here. Can you solve it? Okay, so we know that the tactic is on this move. So I'll give you guys a chance to pause the video. Can you find it? Okay, here's another thing that I'm excited about. If you can't find it, you can press the give up button. If you press give up, there's going to be a modal pop-up box that gives you a warning. So if you give up, you're always going to lose 75 points across the board. It doesn't matter if it's easy, medium, or hard. It's a little bit harsher of a punishment for easy puzzles, not as much of a punishment on the harder puzzles, because I don't want people to shy away from the harder puzzles because they lose a lot of points if they give up. But just remember, you can get 100, 140, 160 points on normal puzzles. So if you really have to give up, then you'll lose 75, and any points lost or gained will be refunded. So if you press that give up button, you will always lose 75 points every single time, no more or no less. You can press the do not show again, but we'll say, yes, we give up. And now I'm really excited about this. I'll give you guys 2 different hints, okay? Hint number 1, trying to figure out what's the correct move. Hint number 1 is gonna highlight which conditions you need to think about when trying to figure out the correct move. So if I press hint number 1, it highlights condition number 3, which is checks or checkmate threats, and condition number 5, edge of board weaknesses, okay? So given that, all right, just because it lights up 3 doesn't mean it's an actual check. Remember, it could be a checkmate threat. So knowing that the king is a little bit exposed, we have some checkmate threats. Can you guys find a good move here? Okay. If you can't, you can press the show answer. It will reset to the start of the puzzle and it will manually play through every single move through the end of the line. Hint number 2 will actually highlight the piece that you're supposed to move. Now, listen to me very carefully. To maximize your learning with this app, always, always, guys, press hint number 1 first. Let it highlight the conditions that you're going to use because pressing hint number 2, I'm going to go ahead and press it. Okay, so we know it's a queen move. Pressing hint number 2 is kind of like your last resort cop out. A lot of you guys know that I was a chemical engineer for 10 years. I worked at a chemical plant, and then I got out of industry and I became a high school math teacher. I taught high school math for a number of years. And if you press hint number 2 without pressing hint number 1, that's like a student asking me, Coach Mark, how do I solve this math problem? I just go up to their desk and just give them the formula, right? No, I want to ask you questions. I want you to think. You'll remember it easier if you figure this out on your own. So take advantage of hint number 1, highlight the conditions, and see if you can figure it out from there. If it doesn't help you, click hint number 2, and we know it's a queen move. The correct move here is queen to h6. Why is that the move? Well, it clears the way for knight to h5, and now we have our checkmate threat, right? So we're going to play queen to h6.
Oh my God!
You can't wait for you guys to hear the different sound effects. Yeah, so that's the correct move. Okay, now we want to play knight to h5, right? Okay, so let's go knight h5. Now notice that we didn't get any points for that because it says 0 points. We're in give up mode, so we can't gain or lose any points from this point forward. And don't just press show answers. Even though you're in give up mode, still try to figure out the best moves. You're going to get out of this as much as you put into it. Same thing I used to tell my math students. When I'd give them a test review for the test the next day, I would post the answers online. I would make videos of me going through every math problem on that test review. And I'm like, if you just go to the video and just watch me do stuff, if you don't do it yourself, you're not going to do well on the test tomorrow. It's the same thing here. You're going to get out of it as much as you put into it. Okay, so the computer played F5. All right, so now, why do they do that? Well, they're stopping checkmate. Okay, this queen, this is now condition number 4, restricted pieces. A restricted piece could be a piece that doesn't have very much room, can't really go anywhere, a few squares. Maybe it needs to defend something or it's overloaded. In this case, the queen has a defensive responsibility. It has to stay on this diagonal to defend against checkmate, right? So we would say that the queen is restricted. Well, what's the best way to deal with a restricted piece? Attack it. So let's go, and the rook's being hit, right? So let's clear that. Yeah, if you click on a piece, it will, highlight the yellow dots to show you all the legal moves. You can get rid of that in the settings. But anyway, let's go rook a to d1. Let's hit the queen. All right, now the queen is still restricted. And notice we have a ton of coordination on this f6 square. I'll turn that to purple so you guys can start getting used to the colors. This is condition number 6. Look at all of this coordination. We have both of the knights that are coordinated on f6. The queen is coordinated on f6. Coordinated squares are squares where 2 or more of your pieces are attacking. These are action squares. The closer these coordinated squares are to your enemy king, the more important they become, okay? So in this case, we can give a check here. Let's clear that. We can give a check here. That forces black to take with the bishop. We take with check, and that forces black to give up the queen. Otherwise, it was going to be mate on h7, and we take the queen. And now you'll see here at the end of the line, I had this comment, and now the point of rook a d1 is revealed because moving this rook to the d1 square is no longer attacked. So after we win black's queen, then we still have both of our rooks. You'll notice here at the end of the line, we lost 75 points. We had one mistake, and look at here. We have Mr. Bobby Fischer beating up on old poor Paul Binko. You ever heard of the Binko Gambit? Yep. So in 1959, Fischer kind of took Paul Binko back to the woodshed there. So pretty nice way to finish the game there. Okay. Anything else I want to say about that? Don't think so. Again, go back. You can use the back button to go back and see the comments and the highlighting the conditions. You can see there I highlighted the queen blue because she's restricted. We have coordination on the D1 square, so that's highlighted purple, so forth, and so on. Okay, so I think that's it for the tactics training module. Let's go ahead and move on to one of our other modules that help lead up and get us prepared for doing well in this tactics training module. Okay, back to our training modules page. Let's go ahead and do the identifying checks. This is as easy as it sounds, and this is by far the easiest module to understand. Why don't we do a random one this time? It'll cycle through easy, medium, or hard. So I will press random. Let's see what we get. Okay, so this is our identifying checks trainer module and the layout. We're going with my favorite color, which is purple. We got position number 723. And this is straightforward. There's really not much to talk about here. We're simply going to try to identify every single check. And yes, I'm talking about every single legal check, no matter how silly, crazy, or inadequate it seems. And it's funny when I'm giving this lesson about checks to newer players, beginners, I'll put a straightforward position on the screen that only has 3 or 4 pieces on the board. And I'll say, all I want you to do is count every single legal check. And only about 1 out of 20 students can actually get it right. And it's kind of eye opening for my student or client because they go, "Oh man, I didn't realize that maybe I need some improvement on being able to spot checks." So this training module is going to do several things. Number one, it's going to help you be able to get to the point where you count every single check, which is going to open up all the possibilities for you to spot all kinds of tactics. But it's also going to increase your vision skills, and that's something that people tell me all the time. Like, Mark, I don't have good vision. I miss things. I can't see the whole board. Well, this is going to force you to scan the whole board because we're going to look for every single possible check. Okay, so in this position, we see that we've got a rook here that can give a check on B2. So you can actually count the number of checks 3 different ways. If you're on a laptop or desktop, all you have to do is left click. So I'll left click that. It turns red. You'll notice that the counter automatically went up. I'll show that again. I click it, it goes to 1. You can also just click in the box and just type in the number 1, or you can use this little spinner. It's nice and convenient, but I think that just clicking the square is easy enough. So we've got a check there on B2. If we look at the queen, we can go here. You can draw arrows. Just hold and left click, and you can draw an arrow. So we've got a check there on A5. We have a check here on G2 with the queen. The bishop is the wrong color, so we can't check with the bishop. This one's a little bit tricky. I think a lot of people might look at this and say, "Yep, those are our 3 checks. We don't have any more." Notice that the queen and the king are on the same straight line. And by the way, if I want to get rid of that arrow, and I don't want to clear the whole board, I can just redraw the arrow, draw it, do it again. It takes it away, or you can just press the clear button. So we got check there, check there, check there. But also we can move the pawn up to F3, and that reveals a discovered check on the king. So the move is actually pawn to F3. So I'm actually going to click the F3 square because that is the move, right? And so the square that you highlight is not necessarily the checking square, it's the piece that you actually move, right? So we're putting the queen on A5, that's a check. We're putting the rook on B2, that's a check. We're moving the pawn to F3, that reveals a discovered check. Also, if you promote a pawn and that becomes a check, if you promote to a knight and that does check the king, obviously you would count that. If you can promote to either a queen or a bishop, and both of those are checks on the diagonal, for the purposes of this app, we're only going to count 1 check. So let me repeat that. If you promote a pawn, technically it could be a queen or a bishop. We're still going to count that as 1 check on pawn promotions. Okay, so looks good here. And so we're going to press submit, and we get a little correct sound. Okay. It will show you the squares that are highlighted, the arrows, all that kind of good stuff. And then you'll notice it shows us as medium because it gives us three question marks. We don't know what the difficulty is. All right, so let's try that again. We'll press the next button. Okay, still don't know the difficulty. Now, you guys will notice down here that in the color key, if there's only one check on that square, we just highlight it and it turns red. We can cycle through or we can just press clear. If two of your pieces check on that same square, if you got a queen and a rook that can both get to say D4 and that both of those are checks, we would click on the square twice. That would turn purple. So just for example, one check is red, two checks is purple, three checks is orange, four checks is green. That's incredibly rare. And it's almost impossible to have more than four checks on one square. You have to promote and get a bunch of rooks and a bunch of queens to make that happen. So for our purposes, 4 is the most you're going to see. Now notice this gray color here. I'm giving you the option to use it. You don't have to, but it's optional if you want to use it to as a means to use process of elimination. If you're struggling with this or this is a little bit of a challenge, it's white to play. So just go by every piece. Look at this pawn on A4. Does it have a check? Yes, it does. Okay. Now I can click on this and you'll notice the tally is counting 2, 3, 4, 5. But now when it goes to gray, notice that this tally cancels it out and subtracts it. So when the piece is gray, it does not count towards the tally. Let's go to the C3 pawn. No. Let's go to the bishop. No, it's on the wrong color. That's gray. The rook. No, can't check. It's just a way for you to cycle through and make sure you've looked at every single piece. Now, not everybody's going to need this option, but in this case, guess what? That's the only check that we have. Okay, one check, press submit. There we go. Okay, let's try one more real quick. Okay, white to play. So the rook has a check there. That's one check. The bishop is on the wrong color. We can X that out. Knight's way too far away. Obviously, the two pawns. The rook, we have a check there and there, so we can highlight those. And that's it.
Bruh.
Just kidding. You like that bruh sound? Yeah. So, right, it'll play a little sound effect and show you that you lost 20 points, and it will give you the total number of checks. Okay, a few more things I almost forgot to mention before we move on. If you press this next button before you press submit, whether it's accidentally or if you intentionally tried to bypass a puzzle, you're going to have this modal that pops up. You'll lose 2 times the number of points for the difficulty level. I'm trying to encourage everybody to try every single puzzle. Don't try to, bypass the ones that look hard or whatever. So a little bit of a stiff penalty for that. In this position, the white king is way out in the open. And so I'm sure a lot of players might struggle with these kinds of open positions. We got lots and lots of checks. But I'll offer a silly little analogy I used to use with kids, but it works with everybody. Imagine that the enemy king is the sun, and it's shooting out rays of light. And so the mission is to look at all of your pieces and see how you can get on these straight yellow lines, of course, except for the knight because it hops around like little Tetris pieces. So we have 2 checks there with the knight. The rook, can it get on a yellow line? Yes, it can. That's on the yellow line. The queen, where are all the yellow lines it can get to? That's yellow, that's yellow, that's yellow. All of those squares, there's a yellow line, there's a yellow line. Okay, so hopefully that'll help some of you guys out there with this. Now, we can also get on the yellow line by promoting the pawn, like I mentioned. Now, I'm purposely not going to highlight that one, and I'm going to highlight an incorrect square. So let's say that you misclicked or you absolutely hallucinated and you thought A3 was a check, and you watch what happens.
Bruh.
So I'm giving you guys this little Batman Riddler question mark to let you know that, hey, you clicked on a wrong square. And of course, it highlights and shows you there in purple the square that you missed there. Okay, so I think that's it for the checks trainer module. Let's move on to the next one. All right, guys, so that takes us to our coordinated squares training module. And the checks training that we just looked at was tactics recognition condition number 3. Coordinated squares is tactics recognition condition number 6. And the definition of a coordinated square is a square where at least 2 or more of your pieces are attacking. These could be vacant squares or squares that your opponent's pieces occupy. They cannot be squares that your own pieces occupy because these are squares that we're attacking. We're looking to capture or we're looking to move our piece to one of these squares. So the way this works is if you see a coordinated square, you're simply going to left click on it. And the same thing that we have for the checks module down here, we have this gray option. If you click twice, so you just click once, if you think that's a coordinated square, you click twice, the tally doesn't count it, and we can cycle back to the original square. So this training module is one that I definitely would consider using that little gray out feature so that you can use process of elimination to make sure you're looking at every single one of your pieces. So I would just start with one piece and look at that piece only. So if we start here with the king, do we have any coordinated squares around the king? And I will tell you right up front that this is probably going to be one of the hardest things to consider is the squares around your king. So the king is attacking the G6 square, right? Our queen is also attacking the G6 square. So that would be a coordinated square. And it's really hard to think about these because you're not necessarily focused on your own king, but the coordinated squares is really to teach you to train to think aggressively and think offensively to attack. But we also need to be aware of coordinated squares around our king for defense and protection. Okay, so I'll get rid of these arrows. So we have a coordinated square on G6. And do we have any other squares for the king? Neither of these are coordinated squares. So that's it for the king. So I will turn the king gray. Okay, so the pawn on H6 is attacking G5. Do we have any other piece attacking G5? No, we don't. So that's not a coordinated square. I will gray out that pawn. The pawn on G7 is attacking F6. Do we have any other piece attacking F6? Yes, we do. The rook does. And so we will highlight that as a coordinated square. I'll get rid of these arrows so it's not clogging up the board. So I'll gray that guy out. Let's look at the pawn on B6. It is attacking C5. Do we have any other piece on C5? No, we don't. We can gray that pawn out. All right, let's look at the rook. So we're looking at all the different places. And remember too, guys, are squares that your opponent's pieces occupy, right? Because we want to look at squares where our pieces are converging so that we can count the number of attackers versus defenders. That's just Chess 101 basics. Okay, so let's take a look at all these squares that the rook can go to. Do we have any coordinated squares with the rook? Yes, we do. We have a coordinated square here on D1 with the queen and the rook. We also have a coordinated square on B1 with the queen and the rook, so I'll highlight that square. Again, I'm showing you guys the arrows just so you can see as we're talking, but obviously you don't have to draw these arrows while you're doing it on your own. We have a coordinated square here on F3 with the queen and the rook, so I'll highlight that one. We have a coordinated square here on F5 with the rook and the queen. I'll highlight that one. Do we have any other coordinated squares? The rook can get to these light squares, and I think that's it for the rook. So we will gray that one out. And so therefore, that leaves us with the queen. Well, if we have exhausted all the other pieces, then we should not have any coordinated squares left for the queen. So we'll just take a quick look here. Do I have any other coordinated squares with the queen on these straight lines? Do a quick little analysis here, and it does not look like we have any other coordinated squares with the queen. Okay, so it's the same thing as the checks module. You will be able to highlight the squares and it will tally the total over here. You can type it in on the keyboard or you can use the little spinner, same thing. So we think that we have 6 coordinated squares. Again, I can leave these grayed out. It doesn't matter. I'll go ahead and press submit.
That's awesome.
Yes, sir. So we got 20 points for that. And it shows us, yes, we do have 6 coordinated squares. Okay, so let's take a look at, one more thing before I move on. I've thrown this in here. This is a nice feature because as you do these medium and hard puzzles on the coordinated squares, then the board can get a little bit complicated. So I have these little toggle switches here. So if you want to turn these off, if you get it wrong and you would go back and kind of analyze the board, I can uncheck this. That takes away the arrows, and I can uncheck that, and that takes away the highlights. So you can show those or not. And I'll add one more thing here before we move on, and this is true of the checks module we just looked at, this one in the unprotected pieces that we're about to look at shortly, is I would encourage you guys and challenge you that when you finish the puzzle, don't just click next and go on to the next position. look at these important squares. Are there any meaningful checks that I can take advantage of? Is there a mating net for this coordinated squares module? Are any of these squares, highlighted squares, important? I'm going to remove the arrows. Do we have a tactic here? Did any of these squares lead to something? So I'll give you guys a moment. And the answer is yes. This pawn here on b5 is an unprotected piece. It's a 1 versus 1. Queen is attacking, queen is defending. We'll talk about that shortly. Also, the rook here and the queen are converging on this f5 square. So in this position, we actually do have a tactic. We can play rook to f5, attacking the queen, and that skewers the queen and the pawn. The queen will have to move somewhere, and then on the next move, then we'll be able to capture this pawn on b5, and then we have a runaway pass pawn on the b file. So this is, something that will lead you to being able to identify these tactics. And I'll imagine most of you guys are probably, your brain is not wired to identify every single coordinated square in the position. And so the point of this module is to train you to start thinking about this. And you've got to consider every single coordinated square, even if it's all the way on the other side of the board. You got to start thinking, I want to look at these intersection, these converging squares where we have coordination. Let's take a look at this one. This is kind of a funny position, extremely closed and locked down. It is white to play. So let's check out our coordinated squares. We have the rook and the king here on b1. We have the king, the rook, and the queen on d1. Also, I forgot to mention this, but if you have 3 or 4 or 5 pieces all on the same square, we still count that as one coordinated square, unlike the checks module where we counted multiple checks on the same square. So it doesn't matter how many pieces are attacking, it's just one coordinated square. We have the knight, the queen, and the pawn on g3. We have the queen and the rook on f2. And this is a very important point. And if you're going to make mistakes and get puzzles wrong on this training module, it's going to be right here. Batteries count, guys. When you have vertical and horizontal batteries with rooks and a queen, or you have diagonal batteries with a pawn and a bishop or a queen and a bishop, when you have pieces lined up on the same straight line, we have to include those as coordinated squares. So this might not be on your radar, but the queen and the rook are both indirectly coordinated on this f4 square. Okay, because think about it in a regular game. If you have a battery lined up with a queen and a rook, let's say this pawn here on f5 weren't there. Well, it doesn't make sense to say that I only have one attacker on the f6 square. We have two, right? The queen and the rook are both lined up on this black pawn here on f6 if our pawn weren't there. So we do have to include batteries. And probably the most difficult one for you guys to spot is a pawn and a bishop lined up on the same diagonal. So let's say that this c2 pawn were actually on c3. So we have a bishop on b2 and a pawn on c3. This pawn on d4 would be a coordinated square because the pawn is attacking the pawn and the bishop behind it is indirectly piling up and lined up on that same pawn. So we have to consider those as coordinated squares when your own pieces are lined up with nothing else in between them. Okay, so we have 5 coordinated squares here. And before I press submit, I'm going to be a little silly here. Let's say that you hallucinated and you thought that the C8 square was a coordinated square. Let's go ahead and press submit.
No.
Love that sound effect. And so, yeah, obviously we have 5 coordinated squares. Now, the reason I picked this one to illustrate in this video is because if you look at this, you say, are any of these coordinated squares important? And obviously, they're not. Basically, all 5 of these squares are completely 100% meaningless. You might say, well, Coach Mark, why do I need to consider these coordinated squares? Obviously, they're not going to lead to anything. And you're right. In this position, they absolutely amount to Jack Diddley Stank. Absolutely nothing. But consider this. Okay, so why am I showing you this over and over? This is a pro athlete for the National Football League here in the United States, and he is working on some foot speed drills. So why in the world is he doing this? There's never been a time in the history of American-style football where somebody fumbled, the ball's on the ground, and somebody runs to the ball like this. That's ridiculous. That's laughable. So why is he doing this drill? Well, he's building a skill. He's working on foot speed, agility, focus, getting his mind right. This is an actual skill that will help him be faster in a real game. And that's why these training modules are going to be so beneficial for you guys. These are exercises, these are drills. If you're truly dedicated to improving your chess game, these are the kinds of things that you want to do. So it doesn't matter that these coordinated squares don't amount to anything in this position. You are training your brain to think a certain way, and they will always be in the back of your mind. Okay, real quick before I move on to the last coordinated squares example, back on this training modules page, for the identifying checks in the coordinated squares module, I like to give a challenge to everybody, and I hope you guys realize that I've tried to design this thing with all skill levels, all ages, from the novice who learned about chess 24 minutes ago to the 95-year-old gentleman with 3,000 years of experience and everybody in between. So I love to make things hard. I love to make things easy. So as a challenge, if you click on just the hard difficulty, you will not be able to highlight squares or draw arrows. Okay, so if you click it, it's going to give you this pop-up message that says in hard mode, you're not able to highlight squares or draw arrows. You're going to have to come up here to this input field and manually type in, or tap on a handheld device, manually type in your answer and click submit. Same thing for coordinated squares. I click on hard and I can't highlight anything. So you're going to have to do all this stuff and keep track of all this in your mind, kind of like, a real game. Now, I will say that if you choose random or customize where you don't know what the difficulty is, when it feeds you a hard puzzle, you still will be able to draw arrows and highlight squares. And I did that on purpose because otherwise, if you if you're in random mode and you can't draw or highlight arrows, that's a dead giveaway. You're like, oh, okay, this must be a hard puzzle. And by the way, don't fall into the trap of thinking that every easy puzzle is always like 0 to 3 checks or whatever. I mean, you have zones, but don't, there's not necessarily a set cutoff for each of the difficulties. Okay, this last position is an absolutely fantastic example of how drilling on coordinated squares could help you during a game. Now, I just got through telling you guys in a hard mode, you can't highlight, uh, squares or draw arrows. I'm actually in testing mode that you guys don't have access to, and that's just to illustrate the point here in the video. But normally, yes, you would not be able to do anything in hard mode. Okay, so I'll actually give you guys a chance to pause the video. Can you find a good move here for white? Okay, we have a fantastic move, and it's because we're training on coordinated squares. Now, my personal opinion and recommendation, don't start with the queen. She almost always can get to the most number of squares. It's a little bit harder to catch all of hers. So I'm going to start with something else. I'll start with the rook here on B1. Queen and rook are both attacking the B3 square. We have coordination with the rook and the queen on B2, queen and rook on A1, queen and rook on C1, rook and king on F1. Let's go ahead and, I think that's it for the rook, gray that out. Knight and king here on H2, gray the king out. And again, you don't have to gray them out, it's just an option. The F2 pawn, yep, we've got coordination with the two knights. Nothing on G3 for the G2 pawn, nothing there, so we can gray those out. Obviously, H3 pawn can't do anything. Knight on G4, no, yes, coordination there. No, yes, coordination there. That's it. So we can gray that knight out. So the knight here, yes, coordination with the queen. I'm actually going to undraw these arrows. Makes it a little bit easier on the answer review, so you can toggle back and forth between showing and highlighting the arrows. Yes, no, no, yes. Queen and knight are coordinated there. That gives us 10, and no. So if we've done this correctly, we should not have any coordinated squares left for the queen. No, 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 no. That's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and press submit. All right, fabulous. We got 40 points for that. And notice that we were getting more points for the higher difficulty. And so again, I would challenge you to look at every position and see, are any of these squares important? Well, yes, actually one is very, very important, and this is what's going to help us. Notice that we do have coordination on the F6 square with the two knights. And on the surface, this is probably a square that's not on your radar, right? Because it's protected by the G6 pawn. But notice that we can actually sacrifice one of our knights and play knight to F6. That's a check, forking the king and the queen. Black will be forced to take with the pawn, and then we play the other knight, capturing on F6. And again, that forks the king and the queen. So it looks like on the surface that you would never consider F6 as an important action square. And remember, these coordinated squares, as they get closer and closer to the enemy king, they become much more important. So this square is actually a game-changing square once we fork them on F6, which is pretty cool. All right, let's talk about the unprotected pieces training module. Now, of the 6 tactics recognition conditions that we use and the 5 core training modules on this app, this one is by far the one that's most difficult to grasp and understand if you've never been introduced to this concept. So I kind of feel obligated to spend a little bit of time here and explain this. I don't want anybody to be confused. And outside of the main tactics recognition module, this one is by far the second most important on the whole app. So I'll definitely spend a good bit of time making sure you master and understand this concept. So I'm not going to tell you what an unprotected piece is. I'm going to show you. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to take a look here at this knight on C4. Okay. And I want you to simply answer the question, is this knight on C4, is it undefended? Yes or no? Okay, so probably most of you guys said, no, of course it's not undefended. Of course, it's protected by the other knight. Okay, fair enough. Let's take a look at this position. It's the same exact position, except there's no second knight on E5, and white doesn't have the bishop on F1. Now, I want you to take a look at this knight on C4 and answer the question, is this knight unprotected? Yes or no? Of course, there's nothing protecting this knight. Okay, so this is what most people consider as an unprotected piece. So in this case, this is where we might look for a tactic. Pause the video. Can you find a good move here for white? Okay, not too hard. We can see that we have a check here. So queen to D4, that is going to fork the knight and check the king at the same time. So queen D4 wins the knight on the spot. The knight going back to D6 doesn't do anything. Okay, so that's just a basic tactic, right? Okay, hold that thought. Let's go back to the original position. I want you to answer that question again. Is this knight on C4 unprotected? Yes or no? Some of you guys are seeing it. I'm hoping the light bulb goes off here. This is still has to be considered an undefended piece. Why? Because we can capture the knight. The other knight will recapture, and then we go right back to where we were in this position. This knight will be all alone, undefended. So after we make this exchange here, then we have the same tactic, right? So queen d4 again will fork the king and the knight on c4, winning the knight. Okay, so here we go, guys. We have a brand new definition of an unprotected piece. An unprotected piece is simply a piece that has the same number of attackers as defenders. Let me repeat that. It's a piece that has the same number of attackers as defenders. So if we go back to this position here, this knight is all alone. So we're going to call this a 0 versus 0. It has no attackers and no defenders. So in the training module, you're going to left click, and then you've got this category pop-up menu, and you're going to select what kind of unprotected piece is it. If you want to get out of this box, you just press cancel. So I'm going to select this as a 0 versus 0, and it's going to turn orange, and that lets us know, okay, that's a 0 versus 0. If we go back to the original position, this knight is still unprotected, but now this is a what? This is a 1 versus 1. We have one attacker, black has one defender. And so there's still going to be that opportunity for a tactic. Okay, let's look at this position. This is the same as that position, except now we've added another knight on e3 and another black bishop on e6. Okay, so now what kind of piece is this? Is it undefended? Yes or no? Yes, it is. This is going to be a what? This is going to be a 2 versus 2. We have 1, 2 attackers, and black has 1, 2 defenders, right? So the same exact thing is going to happen. We can simply exchange one of our minor pieces, so we can capture with the knight, they capture with their knight, we capture with our bishop, they recapture with their bishop, and guess what? We still have the same queen d4 check that will still win that minor piece, all right? Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so let's go back to this position where the knight on c4 truly was all alone. It's a 0 versus 0. What else does black have in the position? Well, if we take a look at this f7 pawn, what would you guys say? Based on our new definition, is this an undefended piece? Yes or no? Before this video, or before you heard about this concept, most people would look at this and say, yeah, the pawn's undefended and the queen can simply take that, right? Okay, that is no longer the case, guys. This is not an undefended piece.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Yeah, exactly. Have to unlearn what you've learned. Guys, this is not an undefended piece. It is a free piece. And you must make this distinction in your mind. I know on the surface, what are you talking about? Free piece, undefended, it's the same thing. No, it's not. Not for our purposes, because this is a what? This is a 1 versus a 0. That does not count. There's no such thing as a tactic on a free piece. You just take it, right? And so we got to make sure we understand this. And unprotected pieces probably shows up more than any of the other 6 tactics recognition conditions in these other training modules. Okay, so I have a funny little analogy, something I designed and came up with to hopefully, for you visual learners, help this unprotected pieces concept stick with you. So we have the attacking soldier and the warrior on the right. We've got the defending warrior on the left. So the guy on the right, he's got 2 attackers, right? He has an axe and he has a sword. The guy on the left, he has 2 defenders. He has a helmet and a shield. So the guy on the right is going to try to tear away and strip away the layers of protection. So never mind, pay no attention to the village idiot over here on the right who skipped chapter 1 in the book Axes for Dummies and who has his axe turned around backwards like a boss and his hand choked up on the handle about 30%. That way he minimizes his leverage and the amount of force exerted at impact. So he cracks his axe on top of the guy's helmet and he breaks his axe in half and the helmet of the defending guy comes off. Okay, so that was a 2 versus 2. We strip away an attacker and defender, and now we're down to a what? We're down to a 1 versus 1, right? Sword versus a shield, and the guy cracks his sword on the shield and breaks the guy's shield and breaks his sword in half. So those cancel each other out. So now we have finally stripped away all the layers of protection. We've gone from a 2 versus 2 down to a 1-1, down to a 0-0, where the guy is truly the most vulnerable. And on the surface, it may seem like he's okay, but hopefully you can see my symbolism here. We got these dark lurking figures in the background. They're circling around. They smell the blood in the water. And so we're like the sharks that are just waiting for that opportunity to pounce. Okay, let's finally finish up this puzzle and then we'll move on to maybe one more. So what else does black have in the position? We already said F7 is a no. The rook on G8, that is absolutely unprotected. That is a 0 versus 0. And also the pawn on B4 is a 0 versus 0. My recommendation, guys, is always start and look for the 0 versus 0s, and then start looking for your 1-1s, your 2-2s, 3-3s, etc. All right, so we'll press submit. And yes, we got their answer correct. And you'll notice that I've given you guys a little chart over here on the left. So it will sort through and properly categorize each unprotected piece. Green check means you got it right. If you see a red X, that means that either you clicked on a piece that was not unprotected or you didn't click on a piece that was unprotected. So very rare that we'll have 4 4s, but lots of 0 0s, 1 1s, and 2 2s, of course. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Oh, real quick again, I also have these show arrows and highlights if you want to remove those and take a look at those. So let's look at another example real quick. So in this position, let's go ahead and start off, like I always say, see if you can find any 0 versus 0s. All right, so the rook on A8, no attackers, no defenders. So that is a 0 versus 0. What else? That's defended, pawn's defended. And I'll tell you guys, the queen is the hardest one to diagnose a lot of times because you think about the queen defending everything else, but it's hard to see that the queen herself is not defended. So she is a 0 versus 0. We don't have anything attacking the queen. Pawn's protected, bishop's protected, rook's protected, everything else protected. Okay, once you get past the 0 0s, I start looking for 1 1s and 2 2s. In order to have a 1 1 or higher, you actually have to be able to capture a piece, right? So then I just start going through each of my pieces and look at what I'm attacking. Okay, so if we look at this rook here on D1, the rook is attacking the pawn on D6. So we have 1 attacker with the rook, we have 1 attacker with the bishop, and we have 1 with the rook, 2 with the bishop, 3 with the queen. So this is a 1 2 3 versus 1 2. That's a 3 versus 2. That does not count as an unprotected piece. This is just a free piece. We could just take it. We have more attackers than defenders. We take, they take, we take, and white wins material. The rook's not attacking anything else. Pawn no, pawn no, pawn no. Knight cannot capture anything. The bishop can capture. We already looked at that one. So the only other thing the queen that can capture for white is the queen. We already looked at the pawn. The queen is attacking the bishop once, and that's defended by the rook. So the bishop is a 1 versus 1. One attacker, one defender. What about the rook? The queen is attacking the rook. The king is protecting the rook. So this is also a 1 versus 1. By the way, if you make a mistake, guys, if you made a mistake and you want to undo just the queen, you could click here and just press clear just for this one piece. And that would be a way to modify or change one square instead of having to press clear and clear the whole screen. But yes, so the rook is a 1 versus 1. So that's purple. Anything else? Don't think so. So that looks to be it. So let's go ahead and press submit. Yes, sir. So once again, we can undo the arrows and the highlights. So I will encourage you guys, let's take a look at this position. There may not be a tactic here. Just remember, these tactic recognitions just tell us when to look. All right, that alarm goes off in our head, says, let's treat this like a chess.com puzzle and see what we can find. Can you guys find anything? We do have a tactic, right? So I'll undo this. So since the queen is attacking the rook and it's pinned to the king, so this rook is restricted, it can't move. The queen, we already saw, was a 0 versus 0, right? So this pawn on d6 is restricted. It can't move because we have the two queens lined up. Condition number 1, location of pieces. We have the amazing move, knight to e5. So knight to e5, the pawn cannot take because it's pinned to the queen. So knight to e5 actually wins the exchange because we're double attacking the rook. Black will have to play rook to f8, and then we'll simply capture the rook on f7. So knight to e5 is a very, very nice tactical shot. Why? Because we noticed that the queen was unprotected. She's a 0 versus 0, and the rook was undefended. It's a 1 versus 1. Okay, so I hope you guys have a lot of fun with that. Crucial element to improving your tactical awareness. Let's head back to the main training page. So that takes care of the checks, the coordinated squares, and the unprotected pieces. Those are like your drills, your exercises. And now let's knock out the 5th core module, which is the Genius Training. The tactics recognition and the Genius Training are your kind of in-game simulation, right? So both of these layouts and setups are the exact same. There's no easy categories, no such thing as an easy genius or easy brilliancy here. So we'll just click on medium. And we have the most beautiful color on the whole app, this wonderful yellow lemon color.
Psych!
That would have been painful. So this is exactly like tactics recognition. That we got a phase 1 and a phase 2. In phase 1, we're just answering yes or no. Is there a genius move here? Now, unlike the tactical recognition module, we were looking for the start of the tactical sequence, even though the tactic might have been the second move of the sequence. Here, that's not the case. So we're going to press yes when we're on the genius move, right? So we're still not going to know if the genius move is the first position you see, the first move, or maybe it's the 3rd move, or maybe it's the 8th move, okay? And so we're going to answer yes, and then we'll make our manual move just like tactics training. Okay, so in this position here, I'll give you guys a chance to pause the video. Do you guys see a genius move right here? Okay, actually, we do have a genius move. So I'm going to try to keep you guessing. Sometimes it will be the very first move. And here we have a very nice sacrifice. And why do we have a sacrifice? Well, we notice that the bishop here is an unprotected piece. This is a 1 versus 1, right? So the bishop is undefended. And what about this pawn here on e4? It is also undefended. I'll highlight that. We have 1, 2 versus 1, 2. So both of these guys are unprotected. So therefore, and this is for you, Gotham Chess. This is for you, Levy, my friend. What are we going to do? I'm going to press yes. Absolutely. That's our genius sound if you want it. What are we going to do? We're going to sack the...
Yes!
I'll let you guys fill in the blank. And so we have our little genius bubble, little purple exclamation mark there. And so now what is the follow-up? So now, again, I can clear this. We have This is the rook on C3, the rook on D3 is completely unprotected. This is 0 versus 0. And the pawn on E4 is now it's not unprotected anymore. We just have 2 versus 1, more attackers than defenders. And location of pieces right here, condition number 1, if 2 or more of your opponent's pieces are lined up on the same straight line, we're looking for possible tactics. So I can highlight this green. I like the rook green. They're on the same straight line. And of course, we have our classic fork, right? So we can simply take the pawn here. That's going to fork the queen and the rook. So they countersat the material. We take here. But now the problem is white cannot take this pawn on E3. Because why? If they take this pawn, the white queen and the black queen will be on the same straight line. Location number 1, condition number 1, location of pieces. And then we have a check, condition number 3. If white takes this pawn, we have bishop takes G2 check, and black wins the queen. So white actually cannot take this pawn here. Yeah, so we got the comment here. And a lot of these comments I'll actually tell you after I've done my evaluation analysis with the engine. I'll tell you what the evaluation is. And it's showing here that it's actually -5 for black. I mean, black has 5 pawns and white only has 3. This pawn on B5 is very loose and very weak. We have a very far advanced pass pawn. And this is cool. This is actually a game played back in 1937 between Rogozin and Capablanca. So that's pretty cool. And you can see we did get the perfect bonus there. So anyway, so the main thing about this module, the reason why I picked this one and created this is because I've talked to a lot of students and clients in the past who have told me, Mark, I'm not aggressive enough. I have a hard time being aggressive. I'm passive. I ball up into a turtle shell and I just play passively and defensively. And guys, you cannot do that in the game of chess. You have to push, you have to be aggressive, and you have to attack. You cannot be successful long-term playing defensively. So in this genius training module, unlike the tactics recognition, every single genius move will be a sacrifice of some kind. Now, when I say sacrifice, that doesn't mean that we're always capturing a lower valued piece with a higher valued piece, okay? A sacrifice could just mean that we're just leaving our queen hanging or we're leaving a rook hanging. You just don't, you ignore a threat on your own pieces, or yes, you are sacrificing material on the other end. So I love this module. This is going to really help you guys that play passively. It's going to force you to think aggressively. It's going to force you to consider every single capture, every single check, every single legal move on the board. It's going to open up your vision, and it's just going to flat out make you a better chess player. Now, I will say this is the hardest module, right? Because these are genius moves. They're brilliant moves. They're hard to find. So don't get discouraged if you do 20 of these medium puzzles and you never get one right. So, you gotta get better. You got to get in the habit of seeing these things. Use the hints. The same thing. We got the same hint buttons. You can press give up and click hint number 1. It'll highlight the tactics conditions that you're going to use. You can press hint number 2. It will highlight the piece that you're going to move. Okay, so I think that's all I want to say about the Genius training module. It's essentially very, very similar to the tactics training. And back to the main training page. So those are the 5 core modules. These last 2 are some extra add-ons that I thought that you guys just might benefit from. So the position generator is exactly what it sounds like. So if you press go here, we get to this board, and all this generator is going to do is you're just going to press generate position, and it's literally going to generate an infinite number of random positions. So the way that I've set it up is both sides start from the very beginning, and each side is programmed to make a completely random move. So every position that you see is a position that you can legally achieve in any game. But because everything is completely random, the cool thing about this is you're going to see some positions that you would never in a million years imagine are possible on the chessboard. Imagine Martin on chess.com, the lowest robot, playing himself. Martin playing Martin. You're going to get some wild, crazy positions. So I can just sit here and click generate all day long. And I thought you guys might like this in case you want to work on anything on this app, just having extra positions, or if there's anything else that you want to work on in your own game. I think a lot of times it's nice to be able to just take a look at a position, and whatever you feel like a weakness is, you can work on and think about it or whatever. You can flip the board, clear the board, all that kind of good stuff. And I've also given you guys the FEM position down here. You can actually click this and copy it if you want to paste it into your own engine or another website or whatever. So I've given you the paintbrush and you've got the canvas. So now it's time for you to go paint there. And I love the fact that in the position we have two dark square bishops. Yes, sir. So we promoted to an extra dark square bishop because we're just masochists and we just want to kind of humiliate our opponent and beat them with two dark square bishops against a whole bunch of other stuff. All right, so that's the random position generator. And back to the training page for our seventh and final module, memorizing squares. This is nothing fancy. A lot of websites have this, Lead Chess, chess.com. It's just a way for you, if you're a newer player, to start learning and memorizing the different coordinates on the board. This is the language of chess, whether you're watching a video or working with a coach, reading a book, whatever. Everybody talks about chess in terms of the different coordinates. So you don't have to know it to win a game of chess, but it's just going to speed up your learning curve. If you're having to wait, 4 seconds, now where is C5? Where's that square? So the way this is set up is you have either 30 seconds or 60 seconds. You can choose either one, and you will choose either the white side or the black side. You will press start, and it will throw up the square on the screen. You're simply going to click on it and try to click on it as fast as you can. I do have the square here in big letters down here towards the bottom right if you forget what it throws up on the screen. You also have the ability to hide coordinates, hide the feedback, and mute the sounds. So I'll choose 30 seconds and we can press start. It throws up D1 on the screen. So we'll tap on that, click H8, and again, it'll start showing you how many you got right and the square if you forget. We're on H4. And if you get one wrong, so if this is H1, if I misclick or whatever, then it'll give me that red X and give me that little sound effect. If you don't like the feedback or the sounds, you can mute those and keep going. I actually prefer it without any feedback or sounds myself. But anyway, after you hit zeros here, it'll throw up a funny little times up picture and it'll cycle through a few different pictures. Over here on the left, you'll see your highest scores. Yes, I can do better than 20 puzzles in 60 seconds, but I've reset my stats so many times. I'll show you how to do that. You can actually reset your best scores and wipe it clean if you want to start over. So that is your memorizing coordinates training module. Another cool feature of the app that I've wired into this that I hope you guys will have some fun with is I do have a global leaderboard. I will show the top 250 players. The top 10 will be in green. Then 11 through 50 will be in this kind of purple bluish color. Then top 100 will be in this orange color. And so it'll show you up here at the top your username and your exact points and what place you're in, even if you're not in the top 250. So that's pretty cool. I've made some dummy accounts and kind of experimented around, but today is the day. So I want to see how high somebody can get on day one. So that's pretty neat. Next up, we have our stats and data page. Please forgive the engineer coming out of me. Man, I used to work with Excel spreadsheets all the time. I love data. I believe in numbers. The stats and the data tell us where we were, where we are, and that helps us to develop a plan to figure out what we need to do to get where we need to be or where we want to be. So got lots and lots of stats. I might have overdone it a little bit, but each training module will tell you how many total puzzles you've tried within that module. You'll notice up here at the very top, we have the total number of puzzles tried in the entire app. So for checks, we'll divide the total of that module divided by the entire total, and we get 22% of our puzzles have been completed on the checks module. So that kind of helps you stay balanced. Or on the flip side, if you feel like, man, I'm killing it on the checks module, but I'm not doing so well on the unprotected pieces, okay, spend some more time on that particular module. It'll tell you the number you got correct, the percentage that you got right, the longest win streak. I wired that in there. I thought you guys might have fun with that. Set little personal targets and goals for yourself. The number of puzzles that you skipped. These are color coded, so green is good, red is bad. So 4 is a very low number, so that's green. 15% correct. Now, obviously, my stats are horrible because I've been showing you guys a lot of stuff. I've skipped a lot of puzzles, during testing or whatever. So your stats will be hopefully a lot better than this. But that's really bad, right? For checks, you need to be targeting at least 80% of the puzzles you are catching all of the checks. Maybe that's a long-term goal for some of you guys. So this is going to be the same for checks, coordinated squares, and unprotected pieces. For the tactics and genius modules, we got a lot more data. Total number of give ups, the total number of mistakes, and I've broken it down into 4 different phases. How often are you successful in saying, no, there's no tactic here? On phase 1A, how often were you successful in saying, yep, I found it. This one right here is the most important one. This label is the most important one on this whole screen. How often are you able to say, yes, there is a tactic on this move? Second most important is once you identify that, how often are you making the first correct move of the tactical sequence? And then phase 2B will be the rest of the moves until the end of the line. Same thing here with the genius. How often, phase B, how often did you say, yes, I can see a genius move on this, in this spot right here? Okay, so that is your stats page. Next, we have our directions page. I'm going to spend about 7.3 seconds on this. I've already explained how each of these modules work, but just in case somebody has not seen this video, we've got some illustrations and some diagrams in case you have questions. All right, all right, all right. So I've now shown you about 90% of the app. And I'm so sorry, guys, that this video is a little bit long, but please understand it's hard to explain 6 months of work in 23 minutes. So now comes the part of our broadcast where we need to talk about the two enormous elephants in the room that you guys have probably been asking the whole time, which is number one, how do I access this? How do I download it so I can start using it immediately? And number two, how much is it going to cost me? So let's talk about the cost first. I have a few different options, and you'll be pleased to know I have decided to offer a 100% completely free light version of this app, as well as a pro version that you can upgrade to unlock everything. So first, I'll just say that hopefully, if you've been watching the channel for the past year or so, know anything about me, you understand it's not all about money. I mean, I'm a teacher. I'm passionate. I'm a teacher at heart. I've taught high school math for almost a decade. I've been the high school tennis coach, teaching people how to play guitar, play chess, whatever. I love to take whatever knowledge I have, share with others, watch them grow, and be successful. Very, very satisfying feeling. I decided when this idea started blossoming in my mind that I wasn't going to discriminate. I don't want to box anybody out. All are welcome here. So I said, you know what? I want every single human being on planet Earth that has access to the internet to be able to experience this at some level. I'm not going to force people to spend money. So if you're the kind of person that's like, man, I refuse to spend money on this kind of stuff, no problem. I got you. Now, I will say that having said that, if you do decide to be a free user, you're going to be pretty limited on what you can do. You're only going to have a certain number of puzzles that you can do every day, and you're not going to have access to all the cool bells and whistles and features of the settings. And I haven't even shown you guys the settings yet. I'll show you that in just a little bit. Okay, so if you do decide to upgrade to Pro, I've got a couple plans for you. I've had people look at this and tell me I need to charge $10 a month. I need to charge $5 a month, close family and friends. And so the price that I've decided on is only $2.99 per month, guys. And I feel like that is an incredibly fair and reasonable price, considering all things, the value of the product, the time and effort that was put into this project, the fact that there are no other training programs or chess apps out there like this. And oh, by the way, in case anybody is wondering, I have filed an application with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So the patent is pending. Obviously, these chess concepts are centuries old, but I feel like the training modules and the methodology of this training platform is a novel idea. So I'm hoping, guys, and have my fingers crossed that for many players, this will be a revolutionary way to train and improve their game. On a personal side note, I have basically put my life on hold for 6 months, sacrificing time with my family, sacrificing half a year's worth of income from my business as I paused about 95% of all the private lessons while I worked on this. So I hope you can understand that and take that into consideration. I don't know, maybe we should call that the Coach Mark Gambit. Do I get a brilliancy for that? But anyway, enough of that. So if you know you're going to consistently use this app, and you know you want to upgrade, so the third option is to pay annually. That gives you about a 17% discount at $29.99 per year. So what does upgrading to Pro get you? Good question. I'm not going to read all this to you. As a wise man once said, don't tell me, show me. Okay, first, let's assume that you're not sure about upgrading to Pro. You want to hold off a little bit until you test it. Perfectly fine. We're going to go by the name of Cagnus Marlson. Now, I mentioned that you're only going to have a certain number of puzzles to do every day. I think if you open a free account at chess.com, you get like 5 free puzzles a day. I'll go a little bit more generous. I'm going to give you 10. 10 free puzzles every day, 2 from each of the 5 core training modules. So it's a rolling 24-hour thing. So every 24 hours, you'll get 2 checks, 2 coordinated squares positions, 2 tactics, 2 genius, and 2 unprotected pieces for a total of 10. The random position generator and the memorizing squares modules, those are unlimited to everybody. 24 hours, 7 days a week. whether you're a pro or a free user. So let me show you what you will encounter as a free user. Let's say we want to use our 2 checks puzzles for the day. Let's press easy. And it's very important, guys. Once you load the puzzle, don't navigate away. Don't say, oh, let me go look at the stats or the leaderboard real quick. You need to stay on this page because if you navigate away and come back, that uses up one of your free puzzles for the day. So make sure you do your puzzle here. So this is by far the hardest puzzle that I have on the entire app for checks. Do we have any checks in this position? Aha. It just happened that we randomly pulled up the Fool's Mate, checkmate in 2 moves. So, yeah, we got a pretty important check on that one. So let's click submit. We got that one right. Press next. And now we're on puzzle number 2. It is black to play. Actually, this one's a little bit tricky, even though it's easy. You guys will look at this and say, I got a check there and I've got a check there. And actually, that's not correct, even though it looks correct. Why? Because we're in check. Very sneaky there. So let's clear that. That is not a check because we're in check. So we only have one move that is a check. So we're going to block with our rook on c5. And that is actually blocking our check and putting their king in check. So we have one check. Click submit, and that is correct. And now you'll notice when I press next, we're going to get this pop-up message here that says daily limit reached. You've reached your daily limit of 2 puzzles for the checks module. Try another one or upgrade to pro so you can go back to training, or you can hit this go pro button and upgrade and subscribe. Okay, so next let's check out these settings. So before I show you all the different settings, let's walk through very quickly how to actually create an account. You'll come over here to this bubble on the right, click in the box. You'll come up with some kind of username. Let's say everything is case sensitive. So let's go with Grandmaster Wannabe. And let's type in Grandmaster. There we go. Grandmaster Wannabe at Gmail. And let's pick a password of our choosing. Create an account. It will say successful, and we'll come over here and log in with our username and password. Press login, and that's going to take us to our main training page. Now, because you're a non-pro user, none of the settings, none of the background, none of that stuff is going to apply. Everything's going to be kind of a blank white background. So now that you guys know that there's a pro and a free subscription, here's our Go Pro button, but we do have a normal navigation menu up here at the top, just like a normal website if you're accessing this from a laptop or the desktop. So let's go ahead and click on settings here. So this is our main settings landing page. And one thing I forgot to mention with the 5 core training modules, you'll notice I've wired in this secret, invisible, full screen toggle icon. So if you press that, it will maximize the screen. So you have a much cleaner user interface experience if you'd like. We have the chessboard on the left. You can interact with it. You can make moves. You can draw arrows, highlight squares as you make your choices over here so you can see the results. You'll notice we have these green pro badge icons. So anything that has pro beside it means that it is either, if you're a free user, you're either partially limited or you don't have access at all. So these are grayed out. You have to be a user for these. If you see the more solid green color, that means that you can click on it, but you don't have, you're limited on your access. So this has the pro badge. If you click this drop down box, you have the, if you're a member, a pro user, you have the option to reset only your score, only your stats, or both, or you can separate the two. Everybody starts off with 1,000 points. For the background, if you're a non-pro user, you only have 2 different choices. I've given you light and dark. Light is basically the same thing, or I know some of you guys like the dark theme, so you can choose that. Notice we have this green flash saved settings bubble here, so you don't ever have to press save. Every time you make a choice or change your options, it will automatically save, which is nice. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and because I want to show you everything, we need to unlock this. So I'm going to actually upgrade this dummy account to Pro so that we can see all the different features here. So you can either press Go Pro at the top of the nav menu, or you can press this green Go Pro button. That'll take us to our Pro upgrade screen, and you'll make your selection. And by the way, in case anybody's wondering, you know, oh gosh, here's another monthly subscription plan, right? That's the world we live in. What about a one-time lifetime license? I actually have considered that, certainly a possibility at some point down the road. Nothing is set in stone. Everything is subject to change, but I can tell you that's not going to happen anytime soon. Could be 6 months, it could be 10 years. I don't really know. It might not never happen. It might never happen. So I really don't know at this point. But let's go ahead and upgrade to the monthly plan. That way, just spend a few bucks right out of pocket. You're able to test it, kind of kick the tires and see how you like it. That will take you to a secure Stripe checkout screen, and you'll enter in your information. You press subscribe, and woohoo! I bought my own app. Awesome. So after that processes, it's going to redirect us back to the settings page. So we're back. It also might redirect you back to the welcome screen. You log back in. That's fine. I might tweak that just a little bit. But anyway, once you get back to the settings page, you'll notice that all the pro badges are gone. So we've unlocked everything. Back to the background, you can actually test each one. Press this little test here button, and you can go through each one of these. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'll let you guys do that. But if you like the welcome screen, you can actually use that as one of your backgrounds. Let's go back. All right, the board theme, you can click on this box, and I've got several different pre-programmed colors. That's kind of like your chess.com board. That's your basic. The classic is kind of like your lead chess, and got some different colors in here. But here's what's really cool. You're not going to find this in any other. I have gone way overboard, guys, and worked really hard to give you full customization of all these different things. If you want to fully customize, you can click custom, and then you can actually change each of these different squares to taste. So I can click on the light square button right here, box, and I can actually move my mouse around. And how cool is that, guys? You could literally pick any colors that you want. I can choose that for the light squares, for the dark squares, whatever. I can slide this over here, change this to, whatever color I want, grab it, move it around. That's really, really cool. I didn't know this, but every color, every possible color has what was called its own hex color. So let's say that you want to represent your own team. You're I don't know, say here in the United States, the American style football is by far the most popular sport. Let's say you have a favorite team. I don't know. We'll say the Dallas Cowboys. I don't like or dislike the Dallas Cowboys, but we can actually go to Google here, and let's look up Dallas Cowboys hex colors. Okay, so they're the two colors. We have navy blue. So I'm going to highlight that color, right click, copy, and let's go back and plug that in here. Copy and paste. We have that, and we go back and grab this. We have the white. That's the blue. Where is the gray here? That must be this one. We'll grab this guy. Oh, this is the silver. Oh, sorry, this one. Let's grab this, copy and paste. And there you go. How cool is that? There are your Dallas Cowboys colors. Let's say you want to represent your own country. Let's say you're from Spain. Okay. Spain hex colors. All right, what do we got here? We have this one. Copy that. All right, so that's our red, and we have the yellow, which would be, I guess, this one. Let's copy that. Paste. There you go. There's this there's a Spanish flag, the Spanish colors. How cool is that? You have customization control over the border color. So right now the border is black. We can make this whatever we want. So let's drag it however you want. Pretty neat. You can also change the color of the coordinate, the text colors. So let's say we wanted to make the coordinates, I don't know, this crazy green color or whatever. So really cool, lots of different options there. I'm going to reset this back to green. All right, for your piece styles, I do have a couple of different sets of pieces. This is your classic one right here. Let's go back to black and white coordinates. So I do have a couple of different piece sets that I've created. This first one here is just kind of some blue, kind of like alien-like pieces, if you like that. The second one I created is kind of like a Star Wars theme. You got the kind of the reflection of the green lightsaber and the red Sith lightsaber. Now this third one is quite humorous. Take this with a grain of salt, but I do have a little bit of nerd and geek in me, and so this third set is actually comes from a Nintendo game made back in 1982 called Archon, which was loosely based on the concept of chess. But I have these guys right here. So we have these kind of like fantasy like mythical creatures. We have the banshee, that's like your rook. We have the minotaur, that's like your knight. We have this kind of demon archer guy, that's like your bishop. For white, you have the eagle, that's the rook. We have the unicorn, the knight. We have kind of like this female archers, your bishop. The queen is like a demigod. The dragon is the dark queen over here, and you got your dark wizard and your light wizard. So goblins and little soldiers here. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, those options are there. So we can go back to our default. Okay, here's a very, very important one, guys. This is where you make all of your sound selections. So you're going to click on this. That's going to take you to this screen, and I have all the different sounds that you guys have been hearing that I use on my on the YouTube channel. So you'll have access to these. You can test all of these. Blip, bloop, incorrect. And here we go. That's right. That's our tactics recognition buzzer. Bruh. Genius. Obviously, you guys, I use this little jackpot if we get the perfect bonus or whatever for the peace move sounds. And by the way, if you're wondering where I got these from, I actually did record these. I physically, put the piece down on the table, down on a soft cloth, and made all these different piece sounds. That was kind of fun making these. These are actually me capturing a piece on my physical board. I recorded these sounds, so that's cool. If you don't want any sounds, you can click on mute sounds, and all the sounds throughout the app will be muted. Now here you have, if you do want sound, you have two choices. You can click one of these preset packages. So if you click this button, if you want sound, click the purple button, and then you'll have some options here for what you want to test. We have feedback sounds. These are your feedback sounds. These are your piece move sounds. So I have, already prepackaged these, so you don't have to make individual selections. If you want, you can just choose set one. If you want to test it, then it will run through and give you kind of example of each of the different sounds or whatever. If you want customization, then you're going to press the customize button, and that will give us kind of a drop down menu here. And you'll notice that you can actually select a positive, a correct, and an incorrect sound for each of the different phases. So let's say phase one, I want it to be yes. If I make a mistake, I want it to be the fail sound or whatever. So you guys can have a lot of fun with this. Mix and match whatever sounds that you want. You can click a certain sound for the perfect. Select whatever you want for the move captures, and you can do that for each of the different modules. So you have full control over every single sound that you can experience on this app. So that's pretty cool. All right, going back, everything's going to be automatically saved. Okay, bubble opacity. So this is kind of neat. So every bubble starts at an opacity of 100, but you can actually toggle this down, and you'll notice that the opacity or the transparency of the bubble changes. So that's really cool. If you kind of want to see the bubble, but you don't really, then you can kind of mess around with this to your liking. Animation speed is very, very important. So I personally like to set it at about 0.3 seconds. So the lower the number, the faster the computer will make its automatic moves. So if Mother Nature calls and you need to run to the restroom, you can set this at 2 seconds. And by the time you get finished, when you come back, the computer will have made its move. So I'll just show you real quick. I'll put it on the fastest speed. Let's go to training, and let's do an easy one. Okay, yes, we have a tactic here. Press yes. Here, actually, that was too easy. All right, let's do the next one. Okay, do we have a tactic here? Yes, we do. Knight to d6. That's a check. King here, and that's mate. Say yes. Go here. Okay, see how fast the computer made that move? So you can actually change the animation speed. So that's a really nice feature if you decide to upgrade to Pro. Going back to settings, over here on the right, you can uncheck any or all of these boxes. If you don't want to see the the border, you can uncheck that. That will disappear. If you don't have a border, then that means you don't have any coordinates. So by default, that'll disappear. If you want to put that back, you can select both of those. If you don't want to see the position, the title, the score, if you don't ever want to know what your score is, you don't care about points, you can click and remove that. If you don't want to see any directions, that's just a distraction. If that annoys you, you can get rid of those. You can hide the clear and flip buttons if you, for whatever reason, if you don't want to know whose turn it is, you can get rid of that. You can take the timer away. Now, by default, I have not checked this box. I pretty much figure that most people do not want to see those yellow dots. What are all the possible legal moves? This would be like maybe for a kid or somebody brand new that needs to see what are the possible legal moves. So by default, that one is not on. If you don't want to see arrows, highlight squares. If you don't want to see the comments, you can get rid of all those. So let me just show you what the module looks like with everything. So we got everything here. I can remove almost all of these. So let's uncheck all of these boxes. Okay, now let's go back to training. It's going to look quite different. Yeah, so everything, basically everything is gone. So it gives you, if you got a background setting that you really like that you want to see all the time, then remove everything and then have a little bit better experience if you like. Okay, so I think that's it for everything here. If you want to upgrade your subscription, if you want to go from monthly to annual, you can upgrade that here. If you want to cancel, press this button. That will take you back to your portal where you can make these decisions. You can update, you can cancel, or whatever. If you just had enough and you want to delete your account, you can press this. If you have an active subscription and you delete your account, your subscription will automatically be canceled and your account will be deleted. So make sure you're 100% certain you want to do that. Okay, so that is it for all of the different settings. Okay, guys, finally we get to the most important part of the video. How do I actually get to this app? How do I download it to my cell phone or my tablet? If you're on a laptop or a computer, desktop computer, it's very simple. You're going to go to this following website here. We have realtacticsingametrainer.com. That is the name of the app, and that will take you to our website and to the welcome screen. And from there, you know what to do if you've watched this video. Okay, so for our handheld devices, for tablets and cell phones, it's a good bit trickier. And let me just take a moment to explain this. I'll try to, without getting too technical, because I didn't know this. I had to learn this the hard way. But when you're talking about cell phones or tablets, there are basically three different types of applications. And the first one is what's called a web app. And that is simply you go to your phone. If you're an iOS user, Apple user, you go to your Safari, you type in the web address, and it takes you to walmart.com or amazon.com. So if I do that on the phone here, I'm going to actually type in walmart.com. All right, so that takes me to Walmart's website, and it's interesting because Walmart doesn't want you to run this through a web app, okay? It's trying to run it as a website. And one of the downsides to a web app is you'll notice that you have all this space down at the bottom. This is your Safari browser or your Google Chrome, whatever web browser you're using for your cell phone. You're actually eating up vertical space with these back arrows or whatever. Notice up here at the top, you have a lot of room that's being taken up. So your actual physical, what they call viewport, is actually not as tall as the actual length of the phone. So you're losing valuable space. And as an app developer, that's very, very bad because you want to be able to maximize the space on the phone. Okay, so that's a web app. Okay, the other end of the spectrum is what's called a native app. Okay, this is what you download when you go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, whether you have iPhone or Android. You're actually downloading the app, and it is actually downloaded and installed as an icon on your home screen. A web app doesn't have that. You just type in the address in the browser. Okay, but there's a third that I didn't know about, and it's basically what I consider as a hybrid of the two, and that's called a PWA. That stands for Progressive Web App, and that is what I have built, and this is what a lot of the newer app developers out there are going to. And the PWA has the benefit of you can get to it through the website, but it also you can download it as an icon to your home screen, so it behaves like a true native app that you would download from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Now, I will eventually get my app out to the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. I hope to do that maybe within a month or two. But for now, I want everybody to just use the website in the PWA so I can get some feedback from you guys. I'm still going to be tweaking a lot of things and changing things. And guys, I don't think I'll ever be through with this app. I might be working on this thing in 40 years. And stick around to the end when I talk about the frequently asked questions. I got lots of updates, lots of things that I want to keep working on and changing. But as I said before, this is our app. This is your app. So I want to hear back from you guys, and I'll change things based on what you guys want me to do with it. But the most important thing here is you need to install this as an icon on your home screen. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up your browser and you're going to type in the web site that I just gave you. So I'm going to type in Google Chrome or Safari. I'm going to type in realtacticsingametrainer.com. And when it pulls up, notice it's pulling it up as a web app. So we have this space down at the bottom and this wasted space up at the top. We got a white strip at the top, white strip at the bottom. That's no good. That's not what we want. We want to maximize this space. So here's what you're going to do. Okay. And you're not going to miss it because when you press enter, you're actually going to see this message. I have this wired into the handheld devices. You're going to have to read this message. And basically, what it says is this app, this chess app, operates as a PWA. So you need to install it as an icon on your home screen. So here's what you're going to do after you press OK. Now, I'm going to show you, I have an Apple 16 Pro Max. So what you're going to do is for your iOS, for your iPhones, you are going to, depending on what what model, what generation you have, you're going to look for this little share button. I don't know if you can see it in the picture. It's got like a little square and then like an arrow going up through the top, and it says share. So if you're an iPhone user, look for the share button. You're going to press share, and you're going to go here. You're going to come down here and click more with the three dots. Okay, click more, and then scroll down, or actually I can see it here. You might have to scroll, but you'll see here, add to home screen. Guys, that's what you need to do. Add this to your home screen. So I'm going to touch that, and it's going to ask me to name it. You can name it whatever you want, and then you're going to click add. For iOS, it'll say add. For Android users, it'll say install. So I'm going to, I'm going to say add. I'm going to press the check button here. And now you'll notice I have a new icon on my home screen. So I'm no longer going to realtacticsingametrainer.com. I'm not going to the website. I'm not going to the web address anymore. From now on, I'm going to open it like I would open it from an icon. What am I trying to say? Open it as an icon from something you would download from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. I hope I didn't confuse you there, but this, guys, is so incredibly important. And now you'll notice when I open up the app, guess what? We don't have this big white strip at the bottom. We don't have this big white strip at the top. We are fully maximizing the full length of the screen. So it's behaving like a native app, even though technically this is still a web app, or now it's called a PWA. And we are in business. Okay, so a couple of things with the mobile devices. Once you log in here, a couple things that I'll just mention. A lot of these pages you can just scroll down through this. For the mobile devices, I've given you this little hamburger menu icons. This is just your regular menu. So you'll tap on that, and that'll give you your navigation links to go to the training modules, stats, settings, or whatever you want. For the mobile devices, this orange button is like your refresh button. You press that to refresh the screen. And these training modules down here, we've got the navigation and the refresh buttons at the bottom. You'll see in the main 5 training core modules, you'll see this blue question mark. That's your help button. So you can press that, and that'll pull up the directions if you kind of forgot how each of the modules work. But I also have the actual directions page, right? So you can click on directions. So there shouldn't be any shortage of people not knowing what to do or not understanding what the goal of each of the modules are. Okay, so I don't know if there's too much else that I want to say about the mobile stuff. But anyway, I'm going to go to the frequently answered questions here, and go through some of these. I won't read all of them to you guys, but I'll talk about some of the more important ones. And so, I want feedback from you guys. Let me know, what do you like, what do you not like. Let me know if you have any questions. But hopefully, everything can be answered from the directions in that little help icon. So let's check out the frequently asked questions. All right, so let's knock these out. I don't know that I'll go through every single one of these. I've already talked about a lot of these already. What's included in the pro version? We've already talked about that. Again, you're not going to be able to reset your stats or your score if you're not a pro user. You can't adjust the animation speed. So I think those are another thing I forgot to mention here is if you're not a pro user, you're not going to be able to see the names of the players involved in the game. So I'm going to have stuff. I've got games from Magnus Carlsen, Kasparov, Fischer, Gotham Chess, Morphy, Tao, Lasker, Karpov, Judith Polgar, arguably one of the greatest female players of all time, Hikaru, of course. So you're not going to be able to see that if you're not a pro user. Can I cancel at any time? Yes, of course you can. You will retain the pro features until the end of your billing cycle, until the end of the month or the end of the year if you chose the annual plan. Do you offer a lifetime license? Nope, not now, but that is certainly a possibility at some point. What makes this app different from all the others? Well, I talked about this at the beginning. When you see a puzzle, you know there's a tactic on that move. This app is different. You don't know if there's a tactic there or not. It's not enough to know how to solve a puzzle. You have to know when to look. So we're going to use these 6 tactics recognition conditions. And when 1, 2, or all 6 of them, any combination of these conditions are met, that tells you, treat this like a chess.com puzzle or any other puzzle app or whatever. And that's to let you know that alarm tells you when to look. There might not be a tactic there, but now it's time to buckle down and see if we can find something. Do you have any updates planned? Oh boy. Oh yes, I do, baby. I got lots of fun ideas. Lots of things in the pipeline. Don't know, can't make any promises on the timeline. But speed runs, how fun would it be to have a set time limit? 3 minutes or 5 minutes, see how many puzzles you can get through in a certain amount of time, maybe without making mistakes. There's all kind of fun things we can do. This one that you'll see on several, I got a handful of puzzles here where maybe the move that you select based on the engine analysis, maybe it's right there. It's within a tenth or 2/10 of a pawn. I am going to look into having alternate acceptable moves. So maybe the correct move is Queen D5, but you played Bishop G6, and Bishop G6 is just as good as Queen D5. Well, in that case, I'll have an alternate path so you don't lose points because you didn't pick the other quote unquote correct move. But for now, yeah, unfortunately, you might lose some points if you pick the other move that's just as good as the technically correct move. Training battles, guys, I'm so excited about that. How cool it would be to have one-on-one battles. All right, let's sit down and duke it out. We got 2 players that looking for a challenge, and let's go through the hard brilliancy, the genius puzzles. Who can solve the most genius puzzles in say 10 minutes or whatever, one-on-one battles? That would be really cool. Engine analysis. I would like to have at some point where you finish the line in the training modules for the tactics or the genius training modules, and maybe you press an edit mode or edit button. You go into edit mode, and you'll be able to use a computer engine to evaluate the position. I mean, it gives you a chance to look at alternative lines. Maybe you're like, why didn't we play this move? Well, hopefully my comments will answer some of those questions. I really tried to put myself in your shoes and look at, at this point, I'm sure a lot of people are kind of confused. Why didn't we play this move? Well, hopefully my comments take care of that. But if not, you'll be able to analyze with the engine and see, oh, that's why we didn't play this other variation. Create your own league. How about that? Get together with friends and family, create your own group, your own league, and you guys have your own leaderboard, your own, your own challenges and groups, bragging rights with friends and family, tournaments. How cool would that be? Just have an open tournament. Maybe every so often, every couple of weeks, every week, maybe at some point every day. Tournaments you can just hop into the pool and try to win. So lots and lots of ideas. I got ideas coming out the ears. So stay tuned for those. How does each training module work? Just see the directions here. What are these 6 tactics recognition conditions? Again, I'm going to drop a link to my little 2-part mini series that I put out on the YouTube channel where I go into a lot more detail about all 6 of these. If you're confused on what they are, how to use them, I give you lots and lots of examples and explanations. So you can check out that external YouTube link if you like. Okay, rating level. So when I say easy, medium, or hard, guys, this is kind of ballpark. I think my highest puzzle rating on chess.com is like 2,800, something like that, somewhere between 28 and 2,900. So, I feel like I'm pretty qualified to set these levels. So easy, we're probably talking about 0 to 1,000. Your medium puzzles, maybe 1,000 to 1,800. Hard, 1,800, 2,500. And your extreme puzzles are going to be, way on up there, like 2,500 plus. But remember, guys, the training modules, the tactics and genius training modules in this app are going to be harder than regular puzzles because not only do you have to solve the puzzle correctly, you have to answer the yes and no prompts correctly. So by nature, by default, these are going to be a little bit harder, but it's going to make you a better player, I promise. How is tactic defined? I'm not going to talk about that. Genius, y'all know that. What's the point of the genius? Teach you to be aggressive. Every genius puzzle, you have to make some kind of sacrifice. Why should I train on checks? You can read that. Will the databases expand and how many positions are in each one? Okay, so this is something you guys have probably been asking. And unfortunately, I didn't reach my goal. I was hoping to have, somewhere between like 1,500 and 2,000 puzzles already in the database when I went live. But, my attention was needed elsewhere. So at the time, I've got over here, November 1st, 2025, I've got over a little over 1,000 puzzles in the database. Probably by the time some of you guys are actually watching this, I probably might have close to 1,200 or even 1,500. And make sure you guys subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be putting out periodic updates to let you guys know, hey, we reached 1,500 puzzles. Hey, we're at 2,000 or whatever. And I have a long-term goal of having literally tens of thousands of puzzles. So I want to make sure you guys have plenty to work with and you're not going to run out of puzzles. I'm not going to go take a 1-week cruise vacation. I'd like to, but I'm going to get right back to work. I'm probably putting puzzles in the database as you guys are watching this video. All right, the point system, how does this work? Without trying to get too complicated, forgive my math background, I am using a very elementary algebraic systematic approach for the points. We have these baseline points I'm calling X. Okay, so for every correct answer, when you say no for the tactics and the genius training modules, you're going to gain X amount of points. If you correctly identify, here is the start of the tactical sequence, or here is the genius move, you're going to get 3x, 3 times the number of this baseline values. For the manually correct making the first move, that's 2x, and x for every correct move after that. If you make 0 mistakes, you're going to get a perfect bonus, which is 4x. X points are added for finishing the entire line without making any mistakes within these following time constraints. For easy, if you do it within 30 seconds, medium within 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and 10 minutes. And guys, I'm going to kind of default to you guys. I need some feedback from you. I'm absolutely willing to change these around if you think it's too fast or too slow. This is your app. You guys are the boss. For every incorrect answer, you're going to lose 2x points in the sequence. 50 points, flat 50 points across the board for answering no at the start of the tactic and puzzle. It's a little bit harsher for easier puzzles, not a little bit lighter penalty for the harder ones. If you press give up, you're always going to lose 75 points. If you skip ahead, you're always going to lose 75 points. So here are the X values. So if we take a look at this, these are your baseline. I forgot to mention this up here. So these are our baseline X values for tactics and genius. Easy, X is 10. Medium, X is 12. Hard is 15. And extreme is 20. So if we choose the hard mode, that means that every time we answer no, we're going to get 15 points. If we identify the start of the tactic, 3 times 15, we're going to get 45 points, so forth and so on. For the checks, coordinated and unprotected, we have some smaller X values. Easy is 10, medium is 20, and hard is 40. You're going to gain and lose X amount of points for correct and incorrect answers. If you skip ahead, you're going to lose 2X. And again, I need to hear back from you guys. Do you want me to increase these values, kind of balance it with the tactics and genius training apps? Are you good? What's your feedback on that? Not going to talk about this, not going to talk about that. Where do these positions come from? Most of these, I have actually done a lot of research in public databases. Like I said, I'm pulling it for tactics and the genius modules. I'm pulling these from real historical games. for the coordinated squares, unprotected, and checks, actually, some of these I've used my own random position trainer. I'll just randomly pick something like, "Ooh, that looks like a good one," and let's work on counting the checks or the unprotected pieces. How do I report a problem? You'll see here on this about page. Um, just got some information. Here is my YouTube channel, youtube.com at Chess with Coach Mark. Feel free to check out a number of videos I've put out in the past. My channel is only about a year and a half old. For email to contact me, you can send an email to Real Tactics In-Game Trainer at chesswithcoachmark.com, and I'll win the award for the longest email address in the history of the Milky Way galaxy. But that is it. If you want to know about our privacy policy, I have this on my personal website. And that's going to wrap up our frequently asked questions. All right, guys. We made it. We made it. 2-hour long video. So sorry. So sorry. But again, it takes quite a while to explain this stuff. So thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for being willing to be patient with me, not unsubscribing from the channel. Thank you for being willing to test out this chess app. I promise you it's going to upgrade and improve your level if you give it a shot. Please let me know your feedback. If you decide to be a free user, at the bare minimum, if you don't mind, please like and subscribe to the channel. Please like this video so the YouTube algorithm will pick it up and send this out to the masses. And I'm so excited. Can't wait for you guys to give me some feedback. If it helps you, even if it doesn't help you, I'm open to positive, constructive criticism. I'm not going to shy away from that. I mean, I'm steep learning curve for me here too. So with that, I'll go ahead and end the video. So the canvas is yours, guys. Go download this app and let me know what you think about it and give me some feedback. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Thank you so much. Take care.